Are you considering becoming an Airbnb host but feel a little nervous about hosting strangers in your home?
On today's episode, we're gonna share some of our worst personal experiences as hosts. And this isn't to scare you guys off, but we just wanna be transparent and share both the good and the bad sides of hosting your short-term rental.
But in addition to sharing our horror stories, we're also going to share the lessons we learned in hopes that you guys don't make the same mistakes or have to deal with those same kind of situations.
Hopefully. Although we do love being super hosts, there are some horror stories that we've heard and have experienced ourselves that make us question it sometimes and even want to kill each other sometimes.
So let's do a countdown of our top 4 most cringeworthy moments as being Airbnb hosts.
All right, cringeworthy moment number 4. So a guest that was staying in one of our cabins in Tennessee messaged us saying that there is a leak from the ceiling, which we've never had before, and her husband just slipped and fell and is in crucial pain.
But he was crying.
And we are freaking out and we're like, oh, we're freaking out, you know, we're like, how hurt is he? What do we do? So immediately I call her. I just want to gauge the situation, apologize, try to understand where this leak is coming from. And she started to kind of ramble. Do you remember? Yeah, she started to ramble.
Like the story got weird.
Yeah.
She said that there was a leak coming from the roof and that it's dripped onto the stairs, and that her husband stepped on this puddle that had accumulated and that he slipped so hard that his feet went, these were her actual words, that his feet went into the air and he landed and rolled down the stairs. Like,
oh my gosh, for this man to be crying, he must be really hurt, you know? So we're just kind of continuing the conversation. And you know that saying that they say, you know they're a liar if they're over-explaining?
I've never heard that saying.
It is, Google it. She started to overly explain the story. So we were like,
that's suspicious. That's weird.
Okay, this sounds fishy, but what if he is hurt? So what we decided to do in this situation was just, number 1, make sure that they're okay, and 2, offer a partial refund for the inconvenience they experienced.
So we learned a couple of things from this experience. You might sometimes have guests that have stories that are kind of hard to believe sometimes. But as a host, that's just part of what comes with that territory. Now, we made the decision to refund this guest, even though we had some questions about the legitimacy of this story, mostly because A, the guest still had an opportunity to leave a review. Second is that if they complain to Airbnb about you being a bad host or about them getting injured in your property, that's grounds for Airbnb to ban you from the platform altogether. So for us, you know, refunding the guests, you know, a small percentage of what they paid us was well worth it to make sure that we could have a good long-term relationship with Airbnb. All right, so cringe-worthy moment number 3. So this was also in Tennessee. This is our first guest where we had damage in the property. Now, luckily it wasn't extensive, but there were a few things that the guest did that
pissed us off.
Like she said.
So let me take over because I was really upset about this one. We got a message from our cleaners that day. She sent us pictures of a ton of damage, like either broken or stained items. For instance, we don't allow smoking in our property, and there was a bunch of cigarette butts all over the cabin. There was blood stains on some of the sheets, which like, ew, what? And a lot of our pots and pans were like burned beyond repair, and they ended up just burning all of our stuff. A few of our chairs.
Our pool sticks were broken. There was damage to the pool table itself. Nothing that was like exceptionally expensive, but there were just a lot of little things that they had done. And probably one of the grossest things, obviously the blood, but there was also dirty panties left in the hot tub.
They also managed to get into our owner's closet, which is locked and clearly labeled owner's closet. And they broke in and used our Instax film. It was just really disappointing and frustrating for us that someone treated our property like this.
So obviously, you know, not an exciting moment for us as being hosts, but we did learn a couple of things. First is that this is part of being a short-term rental host. You are going to have people who are out on vacation. Some want to have good times, some want to have really, really good times, and their good time means a bad time for your property. Second is that there's a limit, a very short time window that you have to submit damage claims to Airbnb to try and get reimbursed. If there's damage to your property, you have to quickly take photos and submit that to Airbnb before the next guest checks into that property. Now for us, most of the time, we have guests checking out and then someone else checking in several hours later, which was the case in this situation. So by the time we had submitted the photos to Airbnb, they denied it because they said, hey, you already have another guest checking in. How do we know which guest caused this damage? And to make matters worse, this guest who caused all this damage got this notification from Airbnb that we tried to file this claim to get some damages back from them, which resulted in a less than positive review from that guest as well. So lots of lessons learned, but hopefully you guys can take those and not make the same mistakes that we did. Now, if you guys are enjoying hearing about the horror stories that we've experienced, please do us a huge favor and subscribe to our channel. Make sure to hit the like button on this video. And if you have questions about how to handle some of these things, maybe we haven't touched on already, drop a comment below and we'll be sure to share our stories with you guys. If you guys are on Instagram, connect with us. I'm at Tony J. Robinson. She's at Sarah Rad, and we'll connect with you guys there as well. And if you guys want a free download, we've put together an Airbnb startup checklist that we've kind of refined over launching all the properties we put together. Head over to alphageekcapital.com/checklist and you guys can download that for free.
Cringeworthy moment number 2. So we just took this listing live and probably that same week we were almost fully booked for the month, like lots of bookings. Our first guest checks in, they say, oh my gosh, we love the place, but just one thing, there's no hot water. And we were like, what do you mean there's no hot water, you know? And we sent our handyman over that next day and our handyman was able to fix it.
And then the problem persisted over and over again. We probably had somewhere close to 10 guests that ended up having some kind of issue with the hot water heater. So we sent plumbers, handymen, our general contractor who built the place.
The propane company.
The propane company. We had so many different people out there trying to solve this problem, but no one could quite figure out what happened. Eventually, one smart plumber, I don't know how they were able to come up with this conclusion. They ended up calling the water heater company, having them on the phone while they did the troubleshooting. And through that process, they were able to identify that there was one super small setting on the water heater that was incorrectly set up. It was like one small setting on this water heater that was causing all of this pain, drama, frustrations.
It was so stressful because it was a new property. That alone is stressful and exciting at the same time, but it's not exciting if things are going wrong, which like Tony said, was happening after every single guest, 10 guests in a row. Constant communication for 2 to 3 week period over this hot water. So the lesson we learned here is check everything before going live.
So even if you're not buying new construction, now obviously, you have your property inspections, but even sometimes those can miss things that might impact the guests. So our recommendation is go through your property as if you're the guest. And even better would be is that you stay at that property for a few days before you go live with the listing. Staying at the property is the best way to identify a lot of those small things that may go wrong when your guests check in. All right, cringe-worthy moment number 1. And this one gets a little
I see what you did there, babe. So we get a call from our guest that was checking out from our first Airbnb in Joshua Tree. They said they loved the place, had a great time, but just wanted to let us know that as they were using the restroom in the morning, they noticed there was some like brown water rising in the shower while they flushed the toilet. So they're like, just want to let you know. And that was the first we'd heard of that happening. So we're like, that's weird. So we should call a plumber. He tells us that was actually poop coming out of the shower drain. We had poop coming out of our freaking shower and we had someone staying there, like WTF.
We were so nervous. Could you imagine how terrible of a review that would be if a guest said, I tried to take a shower and there was poop?
We got a plumber to do a septic tank pump. The problem was fixed, but what a terrifying phone call. Thank God the guests were clueless and called it brown water, but it was actually coming out of there.
Now this property was our first time dealing with septic tanks. We grew up in the suburbs, in the city, right? So we have city sewer. So we learned a lot of lessons about what it takes to have a good, healthy running septic system. So hopefully the lesson you guys can take away is that if you're buying in an area or a market where there's different heating and cooling, or there's different sewage, or there's different electric, like bring in an expert who knows those things that can give you some of the, I don't know, I guess potential pitfalls you should be looking out for as a new owner. So that's it. Those are the 4 most cringeworthy moments we've had as hosts. Now, we hope this didn't scare you guys away. In fact, we hope that it gives you guys some confidence that even when things go wrong, there's still always a path to make things go right. And if you guys have considered becoming an Airbnb host, you can use our referral link in the description below. That gives us both a little something for you guys signing up. And hopefully you guys can reach out to us with any questions you have about your own listing once it goes live.
We hope you guys had fun listening to our horror stories, and we hope to not come across too many more. If we do, we'll be sure to share them with you guys so you can learn from us.
If you haven't yet, please do us a huge favor and subscribe to the channel. But until next time, I'm Tony.
I'm Sarah.
And we are
the Real Estate Robinsons.